Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 19. Anthony Lawrence POV. You mean because of... He didn't finish his sentence, but I knew he understood. I nodded slowly, waiting for his response. He had been in the gym for quite some time, and still, I couldn't rest. My mind was a storm of thoughts and worries, leaving me dizzy and anxious. At least the tears had stopped, though my body still trembled faintly. I felt sick. I didn't even know why I had bothered to ask Elias that question. I already knew the answer: it would hurt. Not just physically, but because I couldn't imagine ever being able to relax or feel comfortable enough to let him close without fear. I hated myself for thinking about intimacy at all, but perhaps it was the only way to keep from losing my mind in this place, to accept the truth and face the reality. And this was my reality. I was to marry Elias tomorrow. I would be his husband for as long as he wished, live by his side, and eventually die under the weight of that fate. There were moments I wished I had the courage to escape it all, to end things myself, but I didn't. The thought terrified me even more than the idea of being bound to someone I barely knew and feared. Elias must have seen the fear in my eyes. His tone softened as he said, "I'll do my best to be gentle, but it also depends on you. If you're too tense, everything becomes harder. If you trust me, it won't have to hurt." His hand brushed slowly up and down my back, steadying me more than I expected. "But what if I can't relax, even if I want to?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Tell me," he said, looking directly into my eyes. "What experiences have you had so far?" "Experiences?" I frowned. "Yes. Was there ever a time where you felt close to someone in that way? Did it hurt or was it good?" "I don't know what you mean." "Never. I'm a virgin." "I know," Elias interrupted gently. His gaze lingered, curious. "But surely you felt something? A kiss, perhaps?" Embarrassment flushed through me. "Not like that. There was Madison. She kissed me once, at the cafe. But I didn't love her back." Elias smirked faintly. "So, your lips aren't untouched?" "I only wanted to clarify what you saw," I said defensively. Silence stretched between us then, our eyes locked. For all his flaws, his possessiveness, his control, I couldn't deny how striking he was. His dark hair fell across his forehead, his eyes an unusual shade of gray-blue, sharp against his defined features. He was a man carved with precision, someone anyone else might envy. Suddenly, Elias turned to his bedside drawer, searching for something. "What are you doing?" I asked warily. "Do you trust me?" His voice was calm, almost gentle. Did I even have a choice? Still, I remembered, he hadn't truly hurt me yet. For weeks, we had shared a bed, his body pressed close, and though I knew his desire was real, he had never forced himself on me. Unlike others with his power, he had shown restraint. Against all reason, that gave me a fragile sense of relief. So, I nodded. Elias pulled something from the drawer and revealed it. A small tube in his hand. "Don't be afraid," he murmured. My chest tightened with unease. "I thought we were waiting until after the wedding." "We are," he assured me quickly. "I just want to see how far you're willing to trust me without panicking." I hesitated, fear gnawing at me. Elias reached out and touched my cheek, his eyes steady on mine. "Anthony, you're the most beautiful person I've ever seen. You don't have to be ashamed with me." Heat rushed to my face at his words, but still I tried to cover myself, trembling. Elias sighed, gently lowering my hands. His gaze didn't wander. He kept his eyes on mine, as if reminding me that I mattered more than my fear. "Just look at me," he whispered. "If you want me to stop, I'll stop immediately." I nodded weakly. He leaned closer, wrapping me in his presence. My heartbeat thundered as I felt trapped between fear and something else. Something confusing, something I couldn't name. But when I tensed again, Elias sighed and pulled back, frustration flickering in his expression. He didn't push further. Instead, he leaned away and pulled open his drawer once more. "Here," he said, handing me something small. "What is this? It'll help you relax. Just once. I don't want you to depend on it." I stared at it uncertainly. As a doctor, I knew the risks. But in that moment, all I wanted was a way to make the fear less sharp, the weight less heavy. When I finally gave in, Elias watched silently. The haze dulled my thoughts, softened the edges of my panic. "That's enough," he said firmly, taking it away before I lost myself completely. "You still need to be aware." I wished I didn't. Elias threw it aside, then leaned close once more, determination in his eyes. "Philip, I'm nothing but a prisoner to you," I admitted, voice breaking. "Never call yourself worthless again," Elias said fiercely. "You are not. You are more precious than you realize." For a moment I believed him, but deep down I still mourned the man I used to be. Once I had been Dr. Anthony Lawrence, admired, respected, cherished for my work and kindness. But I didn't know who I was anymore. Chapter 20. Elias Easton POV. For some reason, I couldn't shake off the suspicion. Why was Anthony suddenly allowing me to be so close, to touch him in such an intimate way? He was still tense, keeping his eyes shut like he wanted to block out the moment. But I didn't let him. I needed to see his face, to know if he was comfortable or if this was too much. Just hours ago, he had suffered a panic attack because of me. And now, here he was, letting me close. It didn't make sense. "Why aren't you starting?" Anthony asked nervously, his voice low. Even in the dim light, I could see the flush in his cheeks, the uncertainty in his expression. His fear was written all over him. "Anthony," I said slowly, "you had a panic attack not long ago. You flinch every time I touch you. But now you let me hold you like this. Why the sudden change?" Anthony shifted uncomfortably. "Can we talk about this later?" My chest tightened. "Did someone force you to say this?" "God, Elias." Anthony snapped, pushing against me so he could sit up straighter. "I want it, okay? I'm stuck with you for who knows how long, and if I don't try to make the best of it, I'll lose my mind." His voice cracked with frustration, but all I could focus on was the way he said my name. I leaned closer, unable to stop the smirk. "You sound even hotter when you're mad at me." He rolled his eyes, but didn't push me away again. I moved closer, settling between his legs. "I wouldn't mind hearing my name from your lips more often, precious," I whispered, pressing light kisses against his neck. His breath hitched, a soft sound escaping him before he could stop it. I didn't want to scare him. Not now, when he was finally lowering his walls, even just a little. My goal wasn't to force him, it was to show him something else, that closeness didn't always have to be pain. That there could be warmth and maybe one day trust. So, I took his hand in mine. He didn't pull away. His grip was tight, too tight, but that told me everything I needed to know. He needed the reassurance, the grounding. "Relax," I whispered. "I'm here. Just look at me." Anthony's eyes flicked open, nervous and uncertain, but they stayed on mine. His breathing was unsteady, his body trembling, but for the first time, he wasn't fighting me. I brushed his hair gently away from his forehead and studied him. His flushed cheeks, his parted lips, the way his hands clung to the blanket, it was clear he was overwhelmed, caught between fear and something else. "You don't trust me fully yet," I murmured. "I can hear it in your voice. See it in your eyes." He swallowed hard. "I'm trying." And I believed him. For a while, we just looked at each other, the silence heavy, charged. His vulnerability tugged at me in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't lust that kept me here, it was something deeper, something I wasn't ready to admit out loud. Eventually, I leaned back, giving him space. His chest rose and fell in uneven breaths, and when I let go of his hand, he grabbed my wrist, panicked. "Why are you pulling away?" he asked. "To remind you," I said softly, brushing my thumb across his knuckles, "that you're not alone in this. Not now. Not ever." Anthony's eyes softened, though his body still trembled. I kissed his temple gently, then leaned back against the headboard. He hesitated, but after a moment he rested against my shoulder. His hair brushed my chin, and I let my hand find its place against his back, steady, calm, protective. For a long time, neither of us spoke. When he finally drifted into sleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts restless. Hours ago, he had panicked, then let me close, then argued with me, his moods shifting like a storm I couldn't control. But one thing was certain. With Anthony, life would never be boring. Chapter 21. Anthony Lawrence POV. Anthony, it's time to wake up. Elias' voice was the first thing I heard that morning. The last thing I wanted, honestly. My head throbbed from the lack of sleep and the overwhelming night before. The memories hit me as soon as I opened my eyes. I had chosen, on my own, to share a moment of closeness with Elias. At the time, I convinced myself it would make me feel better. But now, in the morning light, regret twisted in my stomach. This wasn't the life I wanted. I refused to accept it as my fate. Someday, I told myself, I would see my parents and friends again. I'd live freely, follow my dreams, and build a family with someone I truly loved. Elias sat on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, his expression unreadable as he studied me in silence. I hated admitting it, but part of me couldn't deny that last night hadn't been entirely awful. He had known exactly what to do, how to guide me, and for a moment I had even enjoyed it. I hated that truth more than anything. I hated that I had felt something good from someone I loathed. "Give me 10 minutes, I muttered, turning my back to him, trying to steal a little more rest. But he turned me over again and pulled the covers away. "I'm not dressed," I shouted, trying to tug the blanket back. Elias frowned. "After last night, you're still acting shy?" "You couldn't see anything in the dark," I shot back. "Now it's daylight, it's different." "Anthony, stop arguing for a moment," Elias said with a sigh. "I have to leave soon, and people will arrive to prepare you as well. We don't have time for this." The mention of the wedding churned my stomach. I glanced at the untouched tray of food waiting on the bedside table. Lately, I could hardly eat. I was losing weight, feeling exhausted, my body and mind worn down. Elias broke the silence. "Before I go, there are 2 things we need to talk about." I groaned. "Go on." "First, we won't be going on a honeymoon. It's too dangerous after the attack a few months ago. We lost too many men. I can't risk you." I let out a short, bitter laugh. "How tragic, if I were to die before the wedding even begins." "That's not funny," Elias snapped. "Too bad we don't share the same sense of humor," I muttered. He clenched his jaw but continued, his tone firm. "Second, today, you will treat everyone with respect. These are powerful people, my allies and partners. I cannot afford you causing offense. Do you understand?" I nodded without looking at him, my gaze fixed out the window. The weather outside mirrored my mood, gray, rainy, heavy. "And when the pastor asks if you'll marry me, you will say, 'I do,'" he added, his eyes sharp. I stared at him, unimpressed. "Anything else to brighten my morning?" He hesitated, then said, "Try to look as though you're enjoying yourself. Don't go through the evening scowling or angry." I almost laughed. He expected me to act like a doll, smiling, cheerful, pretending. How could I possibly enjoy a wedding I never wanted, with a man I didn't love, surrounded by strangers who shared his world? Elias sighed like he was the one suffering and finally left the room. Relief flooded me the moment he was gone. I slipped out of bed and began dressing quickly, knowing it was only a matter of time before people arrived to prepare me. I walked to the balcony, but the door was locked as always. At least the window opened, though iron bars blocked the view. Still, the fresh air helped. Raindrops pattered softly outside, and for a moment I longed to feel them against my skin, to remember what freedom felt like. That fleeting peace was shattered when my eyes caught sight of 2 guards, Kai and Eric, hidden beneath a tree. They were kissing passionately, completely lost in each other despite the rain. I turned away quickly, closing the window. The thought of myself in a similar situation with Elias made my skin crawl. I shook the image away, but deep down I couldn't deny that closeness, real closeness, was something I longed for. Just not with him. The door burst open and 3 women rushed in, each carrying large bags. Their faces were flustered, worried. "Mr. Lawrence, forgive us for being late," the blonde one said breathlessly. "It's fine," I reassured them, though their nervous expressions made me wonder what Elias had done to make them so afraid. "We're here to prepare you for the ceremony," the brunette explained gently. "We'll help you bathe and get ready." "I can do that myself," I replied quickly, the thought of being vulnerable again making me uncomfortable. "But it's our job, sir. If Mr. Easton finds out we didn't." The blonde woman trailed off, panic flashing in her eyes. I sighed. Their pleading faces left me no choice. "Fine," I said quietly. I forced a smile, though inside I felt anything but calm. "Let's get this over with," I whispered to myself. "Time to get married." Chapter 22. Elias Easton POV. The hall fell silent as the music began to play, and every pair of eyes turned toward the grand entrance. My guests were waiting, expecting a bride. Of course, I had told them it would be a man, but none of them knew who. I couldn't wait to see the shock on their faces when they realized who stood at my side today. Not just anyone, but Dr. Anthony Lawrence, the man who had vanished exactly 1 month ago. They would all understand immediately that I had brought him here against his will. But nobody would dare question me. Not openly. They valued their alliances with my family too much to risk angering me. Today wasn't about sentimentality. For me, it was business, reputation, and pride. And part of that pride was showing off the person I now called mine, my angel. Thanks to Cassie's meticulous planning, everything had gone smoothly. In just 2 weeks, she had organized a wedding for over 2,000 people. The decorations, the grandeur, the lavish displays, it was all perfect, and the guests couldn't stop admiring it. Exactly as I intended. Anthony hadn't been given the luxury of planning anything. Except for one thing, the wedding night. I'd left that part to him, wanting him to feel some small sense of control, a space where he could be comfortable. But, stubborn as always, he refused to choose anything. Cassie had asked me if she should plan something instead, but I declined. If Anthony wanted nothing, then nothing it would be. The orchestra swelled, and I smoothed my white suit just as the doors opened. There he was, my angel. Anthony walked in wearing a matching white suit, rose petals falling around him as flower children led the way. My father escorted him down the aisle, since his own parents were absent. The room was captivated. Even Anthony seemed overwhelmed by the sheer number of eyes on him. He smiled, but I knew better. It was an act, a mask to hide his discomfort. My heart swelled as he reached me. My gaze never left him, though his avoided mine. Still, his beauty was undeniable, and I felt a rush of pride as I watched the awe ripple through the crowd. The priest began the ceremony, but I could barely hear the words. My focus was entirely on Anthony. Only when it was my turn to speak did I blink out of my trance. "I, Elias James Easton, take you, Anthony Lawrence, to be my husband. I promise to be true to you, in good times and in hardship, in sickness and in health. I will honor you all the days of my life." Anthony flinched slightly at my words, his forced smile wavering. The priest joined our hands and Anthony tensed. I squeezed his hand to reassure him, but he tried to pull away. I tightened my grip, silently warning him not to make a scene. He gave me a sharp glare, but said nothing. Then came the moment that truly mattered. "Anthony Lawrence, do you take Elias James Easton as your lawful husband? To have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and cherish until death do you part?" My chest tightened. This was the one thing I could not control. His answer. He could humiliate me in front of everyone with just 2 words. For a long moment he stared at me. His blue eyes were clouded with sorrow, but beneath it, resignation. He knew refusing me would only make his life worse. "I do," he said softly. Relief flooded through me, and I closed my eyes for a second. Thank God he understood. The priest declared us married. Rings were exchanged. And then came the kiss. I gently pulled him closer, lowering my forehead to his, waiting to see if he would resist. He didn't. His breath was shallow, his body stiff, but he didn't push me away. I cupped his cheek tenderly, stroking it with my thumb until he finally met my gaze. Then I kissed him. The hall erupted with applause, but I shut it out. All I could focus on was him. His lips were soft, hesitant, but when he shyly kissed me back, my chest tightened with something I hadn't expected. A fire lit inside me, unlike anything I had felt before. We broke apart only when we needed air, our foreheads still pressed together, our eyes locked. I wanted more, but the guests were already waiting for the first dance. Hand in hand, we stepped onto the dance floor as the orchestra began to play. Anthony moved gracefully, never once faltering. His silence told me everything. He was holding himself together, but his eyes shone with unshed tears. "Anthony," I whispered as we danced. "I don't want this," he murmured, his voice trembling. A single tear slipped down his cheek. "I know," I said gently. "But trust me. If you can just accept this, it will get easier." "I'm not a machine, Elias," he whispered fiercely. "I have feelings. Anyone would break if they were forced to marry their captor, cut off from family, from friends, from freedom." I didn't respond. Any words would only worsen the moment. The dance ended, and the applause returned. We cut the towering wedding cake, shared a slice, and joined the banquet. My parents, Eric, and Sam sat with us. My father gave his stiff congratulations, Sam beamed with joy, and Eric, ever the tease, smirked. "Beautiful wife you've got there," Eric joked. "Husband," Anthony corrected sharply. Eric laughed, clearly pleased with himself. Later, I rose to greet allies and family, leaving Anthony at the table. He asked to come, but I explained some matters were business only. He accused me of treating him as lesser, and I tried to explain, but he shut me down. I kissed his forehead gently and left him, though unease tugged at me. As I walked into the crowd, shaking hands and discussing alliances, I couldn't help but glance back at him. Something told me leaving Anthony alone tonight might be a mistake. Chapter 23. Anthony Lawrence POV. "You don't look like someone who just married the man of his dreams," a woman's voice commented behind me. I turned to see her, a stunning woman in an elegant red dress with an open back, long dark brown hair cascading over her shoulders, sun-kissed skin, and graceful poise. She radiated confidence, the kind of person who knew her beauty gave her power. "I'm just tired," I replied with a faint smile. And it wasn't a lie. I was tired of this marriage, tired of the crowd, tired of the whispers and the stares. Elias had been gone for over 2 hours, moving from group to group, surrounded by people desperate for his attention. His family was there too, faces that resembled his, yet none had even acknowledged me. Though I now carried the Easton name, it was obvious I wasn't accepted. The weight of the ring on my finger made me feel more like a possession than a husband. "You can't fool me, Anthony," the woman said, sliding gracefully into the seat beside me. "He's already neglecting you, isn't he? That's Elias. He never changes, for anyone." She took a sip of her cocktail and studied me intently. "You speak from experience?" I asked, curiosity breaking through my weariness. "Oh, I'd rather not revisit my time with him," she said with a wry laugh. "But first, let me thank you. You saved my son's life. I can never repay you for that. He means the world to me." My eyes widened. "Sam is your son?" "Yes." "I'm Leah Hudson," she said warmly. "Judging by your reaction, I suppose Elias never mentioned me?" "No, we don't really talk about personal things," I admitted. "Our relationship is complicated." She tilted her head, clearly sensing there was more I wasn't saying. But thankfully, she didn't press further. Instead, she added thoughtfully, "Did you know that until a few weeks ago, our families were planning for Elias and me to marry? Then, suddenly you appeared, and everything changed." I shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to respond. She wasn't wrong. Anyone could see this marriage wasn't about love. Then Leah's voice grew quieter, almost sorrowful. "The police are still searching for you, Anthony. Your family has pleaded on television for your return. Your patients, your friends, many of them believe you may already be gone." Her words pierced through me. I clenched my fists. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to admit the truth," she said firmly. "Everyone suspects it already. You didn't come here willingly. You were taken. I looked away, struggling to steady myself, admitting it could put everyone I loved in even more danger. Before I could respond, a group of sharply dressed men approached. One of them, tall with brown hair, greeted Leah warmly. "Leah, you look radiant as always." But then his eyes flicked toward me, and his tone hardened. "So, this is the man who stole Elias from you." "Excuse me?" I said sharply, taken aback. He smirked. "Go back to being Elias' pretty ornament and stay quiet while the adults talk." A few of his friends chuckled. Even Leah didn't defend me. Heat flared in my chest, anger, humiliation, exhaustion. "I'm not less than you," I shot back, rising to my feet. "And you don't get to insult me at my own wedding." His expression darkened. "Careful. The Eastons are my allies. An insult to me is an insult to them." I crossed my arms and let out a dry laugh. "Funny. I despise people who look down on others. Threaten me if you want, it'll only prove your weakness." He leaned closer. "You abandoned your family, your patients, your friends, just to chase wealth and status. You've broken hearts. And now you've brainwashed Elias into marrying you, when he should have married Leah." His words were designed to cut deep, and they did. But beneath the hurt, something else ignited. A spark of defiance. I thought of my family, still searching. Of my friends who hadn't given up. Of the life I once had, the life I still longed for. And in that moment, I realized I was done being treated like a shadow. Enough. Without hesitation, I grabbed the untouched plate of wedding cake and hurled it straight into his smug face. The room went silent for a beat, then gasps and murmurs filled the air. The man sputtered, wiping frosting from his suit, his anger boiling over. I laughed. For the first time all evening I laughed. Every head turned toward us. And then I saw him, Elias, cutting through the crowd, fury etched across his face. His eyes locked on me, promising consequences. But instead of shrinking back, I smirked, my heart pounding. If Elias thought I would sit quietly, tamed and obedient, he was wrong. Try me. Chapter 24. Elias Easton POV. Anthony's smirk burned in my chest, and I forced myself to stay composed under the sharp stares of Jace and his men. They were one of our most important allies, men our family could always rely on. Jace and I had known each other since childhood, though I wouldn't call us friends. The only person who earned that title from me was Eric. Still, Jace's glare was clear. He expected me to deal with Anthony. If I didn't, he might take it as a personal insult, and years of family alliances could shatter in an instant. That was how this world worked. One wrong move, and allies could become enemies overnight. Anthony didn't understand that, or maybe he did, and simply didn't care. Without hesitation, I grabbed his arm firmly and led him out of the hall. Guests parted as we passed, their eyes following me, waiting for a show of discipline. It sickened me how they seemed to crave punishment like it was entertainment. The night air was crisp as we stepped outside. I released his arm and leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. "What part of stay out of trouble didn't you understand?" I asked, my voice low with restrained anger. "Our guests." Anthony scoffed. "They're strangers to me. I've been sitting alone for hours, ignored and looked down on. And you expect me to respect people who treat me like I'm nothing? I can't just turn off how I feel, Elias. I'm not a machine." He sighed heavily, tilting his face up toward the star-filled sky. His voice wavered, his eyes shimmering with tears he was trying so hard to suppress. I softened just a fraction. "I'm not blind, Anthony. I know this hasn't been easy. I've tried to make it bearable for you, but there's only so much I can do." "You want to know what would have made it better?" he snapped. "If you hadn't taken me in the first place." "We've been over this," I said quietly. "I can't change the past. And if I'm honest, I wouldn't." "Of course you wouldn't, because then you wouldn't have me here to use whenever you get bored." His words stung more than I wanted to admit. I clenched my jaw, holding back the urge to argue. "I'm not going to punish you. I know Jace, and I know how easily he provokes people. But when we go back in, I expect you to apologize. That's all." I won't apologize to someone who insulted me first, Anthony said firmly, his chin lifting in defiance. I let out a long breath, frustrated. His stubbornness was infuriating, and yet, part of me admired it. I glanced at him again, standing under the glow of the windows, his white suit crisp against the night. His blue eyes still shimmered with unshed tears, but his expression carried a strength I couldn't ignore. My gaze lingered on the ring on his finger, our bond, whether he liked it or not. It hurt, seeing him so broken. Against my usual instincts, I stepped closer and wrapped my arms loosely around his waist. He could have pulled away if he wanted to, but he didn't. We stood there in silence, the night air wrapping around us. Slowly, I pulled him closer and pressed a gentle kiss to his cheek. A small smile tugged at my lips. With Anthony, nothing came easily. He wasn't like anyone else I'd known. He was my greatest challenge, and strangely, I found myself cherishing that. You know, a familiar voice called out, slicing through the moment. I only came to check if Anthony was still alive. Apparently, I didn't need to worry. I stiffened instantly, pulling Anthony behind me. Leah. She approached in a striking red dress, her short brown hair framing the same smug face I remembered all too well. What are you doing here? I demanded. Surprised you'd get married without inviting me, she said casually. And I wanted to thank the young man you're hiding for saving our son. Her eyes flicked toward Anthony, sharp and calculating. Anthony, you can head back inside, or go to our room if you'd prefer, I told him gently. He nodded, but as he passed Leah, she leaned in and whispered something to him. His face paled instantly. Anger surged through me. What did you tell him? It doesn't matter, she said airily. I just can't believe you replaced me so easily. We could have been a family again, Elias. But you never think about Sam. Don't twist this, I snapped. All you've ever done is call to argue with me. You've done nothing for him. Her smirk didn't falter. Jace agrees with me, you know. Everyone here does. They think you and I belong together. Well, I don't, I shot back. Her eyes narrowed. He's beautiful, I'll give him that. But you'll tire of him. He doesn't love you the way I do. He's inexperienced, fragile, he'll never satisfy you. That's enough. I cut her off sharply. You're wrong. I don't need him to love me right now, and yes, he's inexperienced, but he's mine. And he's already more important to me than you ever were. Leah's smile faded, replaced by cold fury. You'll regret saying that. No. The only thing I regret is letting you linger this long. Leave, Leah. And don't ever trouble my husband or my family again. If you do, you'll regret it. She glared but finally turned, walking away with practiced elegance. I exhaled, my fists unclenching, before heading back inside. Almost immediately, I bumped into Eric. Is everything okay? He asked. I heard Anthony through cake in Jace's face. Is he still in one piece? Yes, he's fine, I said sharply. Why does everyone think I don't care about him? Because everything you've done has looked like it was for yourself, not him, Eric replied calmly. I bristled, but his words struck deeper than I wanted to admit. Still, my mind was elsewhere, on Anthony, and whatever Leah had whispered to him. My chest tightened with dread. I'll explain later, I muttered. Right now, I need to find him. Eric frowned. Elias, it's your wedding. You can't just disappear. I'll be back, I said, already striding toward the stairs. Please, Anthony, don't let Leah's poison get to you. Don't do anything reckless. Chapter 25. Anthony Lawrence POV. Don't think he loves you. The moment he gets tired of you, he'll let you go. And trust me, it won't take long. Leah's words echoed in my mind like a curse I couldn't escape. Just hours earlier, Elias had wrapped his arms around me and pressed a gentle kiss to my cheek. For a fleeting moment, I almost believed it. Almost believed that maybe things could be different. But Leah's reminder had yanked me back into reality. This was nothing but a facade to make me forget that I was still trapped. I wanted so badly to feel happy again, even if only for a second. But no matter how much I tried, I couldn't remember what real happiness felt like anymore. The disgusted glares from Elias' family, the whispers among the guests, The constant weight of being seen as nothing more than his possession, it all suffocated me. I had worked so hard to build my life, sacrificed my youth for my career, only to end up here, reduced to someone's unwilling trophy. Anger boiled over. Without thinking, I grabbed the flower vase beside the TV and hurled it against the wall. It shattered loudly, echoing my frustration. After Elias sent me away so he could speak with Leah, I rushed into his room, my mind set on leaving. But I froze. The room was decorated with roses, soft candlelight, and music drifting through hidden speakers. The sweet scent of vanilla filled the air. Everything was prepared for a romantic night. My stomach twisted. It wasn't romance to me, it was another reminder that I had no choice. Shaking, I searched his closet, grabbing random clothes. I couldn't escape in my white suit, so I slipped into a black sweater and jeans. I shoved a bottle of water, an apple, and whatever cash I could find into a bag. My body betrayed me, trembling, my vision darkening with spots as panic rose. My breaths came short and shallow, and I sank onto the edge of the bed, trying, and failing, to steady myself. "Tony," a small voice called. I lifted my head to see Sam in his wheelchair, rolling toward me. He was still weak physically, but his mind was sharp, too sharp for a child his age. "Why aren't you celebrating with your family?" I asked, forcing my voice to stay even. "I saw you fighting with Jace and then with Dad. I wanted to see if you're okay," Sam said softly. I let out a bitter laugh. The only person here who cared about me was an 8-year-old boy. "I'm fine, Sam." "Really? You don't look fine." His voice carried more truth than I wanted to hear. He looked so much like Elias, dark hair, gray-blue eyes, but his innocence made him different. "It's just nerves. Weddings can be exhausting. You'll understand someday." "I don't ever want to get married," he replied fiercely. I tried to smile, but my eyes darted to the clock. Time was slipping away. "I'm going for a walk. I'll be back soon." "You're leaving, aren't you?" Sam whispered, tears filling his eyes. "You don't need a bag for just a walk." "I'll come back," I lied weakly. "No, you won't," he cried, his voice breaking. "Please, don't go." My chest ached. "I can't stay, Sam. I'm sorry." Tears streamed down his cheeks. "But you're my dad." I swallowed hard, kneeling beside him and taking his small hands in mine. "I'm not. You already have parents, Sam. You don't need me." "They don't care about me," he shouted through sobs. "They never listen, they don't care about my dreams, they don't even see me. But you do." His words pierced me. I squeezed his hands tighter, trying to comfort him. "They love you, Sam. Even if it doesn't always feel that way. Things will be okay, I promise." Before I could say more, a familiar voice cut through the room like ice. "What's going on here?" My heart sank. Elias. He stood in the doorway, his gaze sweeping over the bag on the bed, my changed clothes, the broken vase, and his crying son. His eyes hardened. He knew instantly what I had been about to do. He stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. "Anthony, sit down." Without a fight, I obeyed, lowering myself onto the bed. Elias quietly led Sam out of the room, closing the door behind them. Their voices drifted down the hall until silence swallowed me whole. I buried my face in my hands. There was no escaping this. My future felt sealed. Moments later, I heard Elias' footsteps returning, steady and heavy. The door opened. He stepped inside, locking it behind him. His expression was unreadable, his tone quiet and serious. "We need to talk." Chapter 26. Elias Easton POV. It had been nearly 2 weeks since the wedding, and Anthony and I hadn't spoken since that night. The argument we had after I comforted Sam felt just like all the others, loud, exhausting, and ultimately pointless. He listed every wrong I had done, and I tried to convince him that I was making an effort, but he never believed me. I'll admit it, I was terrible in the beginning. I didn't care what others thought, and at first, I only wanted Anthony for selfish reasons. But over time, I realized it wasn't enough. His smile, rare as it was one of the most beautiful things I had ever seen. And yet, it was never for me. The only times I saw that smile were on TV or when he was with Sam. I wasn't jealous of my son, not exactly. Maybe a little. But I was grateful they were close. At least two of the people who mattered most to me had found comfort in each other. As for Anthony and me, nothing had changed. He still hated me and I was powerless to alter it. No progress. Not even small steps forward. We still shared my room, though I gave him space. I even allowed him to wear clothes to sleep, something I never would have accepted before. Work became my only escape. I buried myself in files and meetings, especially since the case of Sam's attack remained unresolved. We still didn't know who had ordered it, and Sam remembered nothing before he was shot. Anthony spent nearly all his time either with Sam or in the medical wing, where he even began treating other patients. I hadn't given him formal permission, but I let it go. He seemed more alive there. Sometimes I sent Eric to keep an eye on him. That decision quickly became a mistake. Jealousy gnawed at me when I realized Anthony spoke more freely with my doctors, and even with Eric. Why was it so easy for everyone else to approach him? Why not me? Frustration boiled over as I accidentally spilled coffee across the documents on my desk. I muttered under my breath, running a hand through my hair, and called for one of the maids to clean up the mess. Let me guess, Eric's voice teased as he strolled in without knocking. No caramel syrup in your coffee, so you threw it everywhere? I'm not in the mood, I warned, trying to salvage what papers I could. Eric flopped onto the sofa, grinning. I frowned. What's got you so cheerful? Are you seeing someone? His smile faltered. Don't play games, Eric. Are you with someone? He avoided my eyes. That told me everything. My chest tightened. We'd always shared everything with each other, especially when it came to relationships. The fact that he had kept this from me cut deeper than I wanted to admit. How long? I asked evenly. Silence. My patience snapped. How long, Eric? It doesn't matter, he muttered. I'm here to update you about Anthony, not talk about myself. Don't avoid me. I want answers. Who is it? How long? He finally looked up, his expression strained. Why do you even care? The question froze me. You didn't just ask me that, I said quietly. I did. I care because you're my best friend, I replied firmly. But inside, it hurt. He'd never been in love before, not truly. And now that he hadn't trusted me enough to tell me. Eric exhaled heavily. To be honest, Elias, I haven't felt like your best friend for a long time. More like your assistant. Or one of your men. You've made me spy on Anthony when that should never have been my place. You've poured all your focus into your own desires without thinking about anyone else. Sam, your son, is bright, talented, and desperate for your attention. But all you see is an heir. And Anthony? You turned his life upside down, and you expect him to just love you back. That's not how it works. You can't demand loyalty or affection. You have to earn it. His words struck harder than I expected. Are you finished? I asked coldly, trying to keep my composure. I didn't mean to hurt you, Eric said carefully. But it's the truth. Helpful, I muttered sarcastically. So, I'm a terrible husband, a terrible father, and now a terrible friend. Good to know. I never called you that, Eric shot back. You didn't have to. You implied it. My voice sharpened. Now do me a favor and leave me alone. Elias, this isn't how you solve anything. Get a trick, I snapped. He shook his head in disbelief before walking out, leaving me in silence. I sank back into my chair, staring at the ruined documents. His words replayed in my mind, piercing deeper with every echo. Apparently, everything I'd ever done was wrong. And maybe, just maybe, everyone I cared about truly did hate me. Chapter 27. Anthony Lawrence POV. You have a rendezvous tonight, Mason informed me as I finished sanitizing the surgical instruments after we'd operated on one of Elias' men. With who? I asked, though I already suspected the answer. Mason raised an eyebrow, clearly amused, and reached for the utensils in my hands. Is this a rhetorical question? He chuckled. Come on, Anthony. You know exactly who. Mason and the other doctors had grown on me more than I expected. Some of them even felt like friends, Mason included. He had been here for years and somehow seemed content with it. I, of course, was in a very different position. I can finish this myself, I said quickly, reaching for the instruments again. Not a chance. You're expected at dinner with your husband, which means you'd better get ready, Mason reminded me with a teasing grin. I wanted to roll my eyes and tell him the truth, that none of this was my choice, that I had been taken from my real life and forced into this role. But I bit my tongue. It was safer that way. Mr. Easton may have patience with you, Mason continued, but not with me. If he finds out I delayed you, he trailed off, but I understood. He won't do anything to you, I muttered. That's easy for you to say, Mason laughed. He'd never hurt you. The rest of us? Different story. I didn't reply. My chest tightened each time someone casually referred to Elias as my husband. The word felt wrong. Before leaving, I slipped my wedding ring on. I didn't wear it while working, it was easier to forget this way. But tonight, I had no choice. Whatever happens, Mason said quietly, if you ever need to talk, I'll be here. I gave him a faint smile. Thank you, Mason. After saying goodbye to the staff, I went to Elias' room. He wasn't there, so I quickly showered and changed into the suit that had been laid out for me. In the mirror, I barely recognized myself. My face looked healthier than it had weeks ago, the dark circles under my eyes fading. A part of me hated that I was adapting to this life when all I wanted was my freedom. I thought of my family, my friends, my career. Did they still search for me? Or had they already given up? Are you ready? Elias' voice came from the doorway. I turned, silently cursing the fact that he looked as flawless as ever. Of all the people in the world, why did my captor have to look like that? It confused me, stirred things I didn't want to feel. We walked out together, and to my surprise, we didn't head to one of his many dining rooms. Instead, he led me to one of his expensive cars. We're actually going out? I asked cautiously. Yes. His tone was flat. His expression unreadable. Aren't you worried someone might recognize me? His eyes flicked toward me sharp. Are you planning something? I shifted uncomfortably. No. Good, he said simply, and the conversation ended there. We arrived at a luxurious Italian restaurant. Everyone inside wore elegant suits and dresses. This wasn't the kind of place I would ever choose. Food, to me, didn't need to be extravagant to be good. Elias was greeted warmly by the staff and escorted to a private section. I followed quietly, trying not to draw attention. As we sat down, the restaurant owner, an older man, laughed as he glanced at me. Are you even ordering dessert? Looks like you brought your own tonight. My stomach turned. Enough, Elias said sharply, surprising me. He isn't an object. He's my husband. Show him respect. The man blinked in shock, his eyes darting to the rings on our hands. My cheeks burned. You didn't tell me you were married, he stammered. Forgive me, I thought. Well, I mistook him for someone else. He reminds me of that missing doctor from the news. That's because he is that doctor, Elias said impatiently. The man's smile faltered. Thankfully, he dropped the subject. When he asked for our orders, Elias requested his usual. I skimmed the menu, my appetite vanishing the moment I saw the prices. I'll just have water, I said quietly. Both Elias and the owner looked stunned. Elias cut in quickly. He'll have the same as me. After the man left, Elias turned on me. A glass of water? Seriously? Did you see those prices? They're outrageous, I muttered. Elias laughed dryly. It doesn't matter. I'm paying. When the wine arrived, I stayed quiet watching him. Finally, I spoke. I know what you're doing. You want me to feel like I owe you. Elias set down his glass abruptly. You think everything I do is to control you. His voice rose, frustration breaking through. I'll admit, at the beginning, that's all I wanted. But not anymore. Sam thinks I don't care about him. Eric's been keeping secrets from me. And you think I only see you as something to use. I hesitated, then slipped. You didn't know about Eric and Kai? Elias froze. Come again. Eric and your guard. They're too close. His eyes widened in disbelief, then darkened. I'll fire him immediately. No, I interrupted. Don't. Their feelings are real. If you end this, you'll destroy your friendship with Eric completely. He stared at me, torn, before finally putting his phone away. We ate in silence after that. The food was exquisite, but I barely tasted it. On the drive back, Elias was quiet. When we returned to the mansion, he retreated to his work. I changed, lay down on my side of the bed and closed my eyes. Sleep came quickly, but it wasn't peaceful. One thought haunted me. I had to find a way out of here. Chapter 28. Elias Easton POV. Hey Kai. Long time no see, I greeted one of my guards with a forced smile. He was also the man who, apparently, had stolen my best friend's heart. Hello, Mr. Easton. I hope things are going well with your husband, he replied politely, then turned his attention back to his duty. He acted as though our conversation was already over. I wasn't finished. Things are fine, I admitted. It's not always easy, but no relationship ever is. Dinner with Anthony had been more difficult than I'd expected. I thought it might bring us closer, but he still kept his distance, as if I were planning something against him. Lately, everyone around me seemed to test my patience. A hollowness had started forming inside me, one I couldn't fill no matter how hard I tried. Relationships are never easy, Kai chuckled. Speaking from experience? I asked, leaning casually against the wall. Sort of, he replied carefully, eyeing me as if weighing his words. Are you in one right now? I pressed. He flinched slightly, then gave a small smile. You know. You mean, do I know about you and Eric? Yes, I said evenly. His face flushed. For a moment he looked guilty, then defensive. That's none of your business. I don't want details, I replied calmly, though my voice carried an edge. I just want to know if you truly care for him. I do, he said at first with hesitation, then corrected himself firmly. Yes, I do. Good, I muttered with a faint smirk. I turned as if to leave, but added one last warning. Don't hurt him. If you do, you'll answer to me. Kai stiffened but said nothing more. At that moment, Eric appeared. Am I interrupting something? His tone was skeptical, his expression cool. He was still upset about our argument earlier. Just telling my guard he has the night off, I replied, walking away before either of them could press further. My steps carried me to Sam's room. Eric's words about me being distant as a father still lingered. I had always told myself Sam was simply quiet by nature, not the type to talk or laugh much. But deep down, I knew I had used that excuse to avoid facing my own failures. I opened Sam's door gently and found him fast asleep. For a moment, I considered sitting by his side, but I didn't want to disturb his rest. He had been through so much, he deserved a night of peace. Feeling restless, I retreated to my office. The mansion was silent, but my thoughts were loud, too loud. Why is it so hard for people to love me? I thought of the way Eric and Kai looked at each other, genuine affection clear in their eyes. They didn't need wealth, power, or status. They simply cared for each other. I shook my head and tried to focus on paperwork, but soon gave up. My mind refused to quiet. When I finally entered my bedroom, Anthony was already asleep. I showered, changed, and slid beneath the thin blanket we shared. He wore a sweater and sweatpants, yet somehow he still managed to take most of the blanket for himself. I tugged lightly, but stopped. Waking him wasn't worth it. Exhaustion pressed on me, yet I lay wide awake, staring into the dark. My thoughts turned cruel. You're a bad friend, a bad father, a bad husband. You're a monster. I pressed my eyes shut, wishing I could silence the voice in my head. For years, I never needed love. Intimacy had always been easy to find. But now, even when I thought about being with someone else, the idea felt like betrayal. Because, despite everything, Anthony was my husband. I flinched slightly when I felt movement behind me. Then, to my surprise, Anthony's arms slipped around my waist. He pressed against my back, warm and steady. At first I thought he was awake, but his slow, even breathing told me otherwise. He had done it unconsciously. I couldn't help but smile. Carefully, I laid my hand over his, savoring the rare closeness. His breath brushed the back of my neck, his heartbeat faint but real against me. For once, he wasn't fighting me. For once, I didn't feel alone. And with that small comfort, I finally drifted into a peaceful, dreamless sleep. Why can't every night be like this? Chapter 29. Anthony Lawrence POV. After yesterday, I hoped for a normal day, just working in the medical wing with my colleagues and spending time with Sam. Strange as it sounded, I had grown used to this routine, almost accepting it as my life. Maybe it wasn't acceptance at all, but a way to stay sane. Because deep down, I knew there was no escape. That evening, I sat with Elias in the back seat of one of his sleek cars. A driver chauffeured us toward a large gathering. I was forced into another stiff suit, and though I hated it, I stayed quiet. The last thing I needed was more conflict with Elias. We rode in silence, which wasn't unusual for us. Real conversations were rare, and when they did happen, they usually ended in arguments. This time, Elias was taking me to a meeting filled with powerful mafia families. An exchange of information, alliances, and strategy. The kind of event where danger could lurk behind a smile. I didn't understand why he wanted me there. Eric had warned me not to speak unless spoken to, and certainly not to anyone outside Elias' trusted circle. So, I did what was expected, sat quietly at a table, accepted a drink, and tried not to look too awkward while Elias disappeared into conversations with men who controlled empires. Kai, one of Elias' guards, stood near me. His presence was supposed to make me feel safe. But the only thing I felt was boredom mixed with unease. To pass the time, I asked him questions he clearly didn't want to answer. What kind of work does Elias' family actually do? Kai's eyes narrowed. I'm not supposed to talk to you. I sighed. His coldness wasn't surprising. Everyone here carried the same sharp arrogance, as if empathy was a weakness. Finally, I excused myself and walked toward the restrooms, glad for a chance to be alone. But instead of entering, I lingered in the hallway. I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. The weight of captivity pressed heavily on me, and for a fleeting second, I imagined what it would be like to call my family. To hear their voices again. But I had no phone, no way out. A scream. A woman's voice, sharp with terror, echoing from down the hall. My heart lurched. Others must have heard it too, but they ignored it as if it were nothing unusual. I couldn't ignore it. I ran toward the sound and burst into a dimly lit office. Inside, a young woman with long brown hair struggled against a man who pinned her down. Her blouse was torn, her face streaked with tears. His hand was clamped over her mouth, muffling her cries. The sheer fear in her eyes froze me in place. The man whipped his head toward me, furious. His grip tightened on her. "What are you doing here?" he barked. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My chest felt hollow, my pulse thundered in my ears. He stood, dragging the woman roughly aside as if she were nothing. His attention fixed on me now. His words dripped with venom. "You're Elias' husband, aren't you?" My throat closed. I gave the smallest nod. The man sneered. "Do you know what it's like to be invisible? To work for people like Elias and his family, giving everything, only to be discarded like trash? While someone like you," his gaze raked over me with contempt, "gets handed everything?" The woman whimpered softly in the corner, curling away from him. My instinct screamed at me to protect her, but I was powerless. The man's presence was suffocating, his rage so volatile it felt like the walls themselves trembled. He circled me, spitting bitter words about betrayal, jealousy, and Elias' power. Every sentence tightened the air, pulling me deeper into dread. I wanted to shout that I never asked for any of this, that I wasn't his enemy, but the words lodged in my throat. When he stepped closer, I staggered back against the couch. His eyes gleamed with a twisted hunger for control, not love, not desire, but dominance. My skin crawled under his stare. Tears stung my eyes. My chest ached. I realized no one was coming. Not Elias, not the guards, not anyone. The man leaned closer, lowering his voice to a chilling whisper. "You don't belong here. And I'll show you why." His shadow swallowed me whole. I froze, numb with terror. My thoughts spiraled. This is it. This is how it ends. Chapter 30. Elias Easton POV. The evening was exactly as I expected, long, draining, and painfully dull. Together with Eric, who still wasn't speaking much to me, I endured conversations with people I barely remembered or never cared for. Every year, it was tradition for the major families to meet in a fragile peace. Alliances were renewed, problems were discussed, and everyone pretended civility. Leah and Jace weren't present tonight, which was worrying in itself. Still, as one of the most powerful families, we couldn't ignore these meetings. Without allies, even the strongest empire could crumble. I knew that too well. I forced myself to nod politely as a partner and his wife droned on. Their words barely registered, my mind was elsewhere. I would rather have been home, lying in bed with Anthony. He must be sitting alone now, likely bored to tears. And yet, his presence here mattered to me. Just knowing he was under the same roof steadied me. "Did you hear that?" a woman gasped suddenly, clutching her pearls. Eric and I exchanged looks. We hadn't heard anything over the music and chatter. But her husband stiffened. "Go to the car. Now," he urged. She obeyed immediately, and soon, others began to stir in panic. Within seconds, the atmosphere shifted. People whispered, rushed for the exits, or even reached for their weapons. "Gunshots," Mr. Jones muttered grimly. My men converged instantly, weapons ready. "Party's over," I ordered. "Get everyone to the cars." But as I scanned the room, my pulse stopped. Anthony's seat was empty. "Where is Anthony?" I demanded, rounding on Kai, who had been tasked with watching him. I don't know," he stammered. My fury nearly broke through, but Eric stepped between us. "Don't touch him," he warned. I clenched my fists, forcing down the storm inside me. "Spread out. Find him." My voice echoed through the hall. My men scattered. I refused to let panic show. If anyone saw how much Anthony meant to me, they would use it against me. But inside, fear gnawed at my chest. Gunshots rang out again, followed by screams. Without hesitation, I ran toward the sound. The smell of blood hit me as I entered the corridor. My men were already there, carrying out a wounded young woman and dragging away a body I recognized instantly, an ex-associate who had joined Leah's side. "Send his remains back with a message," I snapped coldly. "If Leah ever touches what is mine again, her entire family will pay." Then my eyes fell to the corner of the room. Anthony. He was curled against the wall, trembling, his clothes torn and his body streaked with blood that wasn't entirely his own. My chest tightened painfully, but he was alive. That was all that mattered. "Out," I barked. "Leave us." The room cleared. I knelt and wrapped him in my arms. "Breathe, precious. You're safe now." He shook violently, his breaths ragged, but I held him until they steadied. Shrugging off my jacket, I wrapped it around him before lifting him into my arms. We left in silence, my men shielding us from stares as I carried him to the car. Anthony cried softly against my chest, and I could only hold him tighter. At the mansion, staff and even my parents were waiting. "Is he all right?" my mother asked, rushing forward. "He'll be checked tomorrow," I said firmly. "For now, he needs rest." "Make sure he's cleaned before he's put in bed," my father muttered, more concerned about appearances than Anthony's well-being. I glared. "I'll take care of him myself." In my room, Anthony stirred awake, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. "I'm so sorry, precious," I whispered, kissing his forehead gently. I sat him on the edge of the bath and filled it with warm water. My jacket slipped from his shoulders, revealing how pale and shaken he was. Carefully, I washed the blood from his skin, speaking softly to calm him. "You want to know what happened?" he rasped, bitterness in his voice. "Tomorrow," I said gently. "I wasn't violated if that's what you're worried about," he added with a hollow laugh. "That doesn't matter. What matters is that you're here. That you're safe," I answered, though frustration churned inside me. No matter what I did, he always believed the worst of me. When he was finally clean, I dried him and tucked him into bed, pulling the blanket snug around him. I thought to leave for the gym, to work through my own storm. But Anthony's quiet voice stopped me. I don't want to be alone." His words pierced through me. Without hesitation, I stripped back down and slid beside him. At first, I stayed on my side, giving him space. But then he sighed and pressed himself against me, his body warm against mine. I smiled faintly, wrapping my arm around him, breathing in the soft scent of his hair. "Sleep, precious," I whispered against his skin, kissing him lightly. If Leah wanted war, then war she would have. Chapter 31. Anthony Lawrence POV. Are you feeling better? Elias asked me as we sat across from each other at breakfast. It was the first time in a long while we had shared a meal together. We still hadn't spoken about what happened yesterday. Truthfully, I wasn't ready. The memories felt too raw. The image replayed in my mind on a loop. The girl's desperate cry, the gun in the man's hand, the way everything spiraled in seconds. She hadn't done anything wrong, and yet her life ended right in front of me. I had tried to fight back, to stop him. Somehow, in the chaos, I ended up holding the weapon instead. And then, I fired. I hadn't fully processed it. The weight of what I'd done pressed on me like a stone. I had always dreamed of saving lives, not taking them. And yet, here I was, becoming someone I never wanted to be. I forced myself to push the thought aside. I wasn't ready to tell Elias. The dining room table was overloaded with food, far more than either of us could eat. It always struck me as wasteful. 2 people died in front of me yesterday, I said quietly. One of them innocent. And all because someone had a grudge against your family. How do you expect me to feel? My skin crawled at the memory of that man's hands on me, of the fear, of the girl who hadn't survived. Elias stirred caramel syrup into his coffee, his expression unreadable. You've seen death before, Anthony. You're a doctor. You know it's unavoidable. That's not the same, I shot back. My patients died of illness, not because someone pulled a trigger. That girl didn't deserve what happened. He let out a long breath. In this world, innocence doesn't protect you. People are taken far too young, whether they deserve it or not. I don't want to accept that, I said firmly. Neither do I, he admitted. But I don't have a choice. I looked at him sharply. And what if Sam had been the one to die? For a moment, his mask cracked. His lips pressed into a hard line, his eyes turning cold. That's different. It's not, I argued. Yes, it is. He's my son. His voice was tight, defensive. Just like yesterday, I was scared for you too. Don't say that, I muttered, bitterness in my tone. You only keep me here because you don't want to be alone. The table rattled as Elias slammed his fist down, startling me. A plate clattered to the floor and shattered. A maid rushed in, but he waved her away. I'm tired of you seeing me as some monster who doesn't care, he snapped. Anyone else in my position would have broken you by now. But I've given you space. I've never forced you into anything you didn't want. And still, all I get from you is hatred. I stared back at him, heart pounding, but refused to flinch. So, I'm supposed to thank you for kidnapping me and destroying my life? Elias let out a frustrated groan. Then his voice dropped lower, steadier. Does it sound like I don't care when I've arranged for you to visit your family today? The words froze me. For a moment, I wasn't sure I heard him right. My parents. After months of wondering if I'd ever see them again, he was offering me that chance. You planned that? My voice shook. Yes. But after this morning, I'm not sure I'm in the mood anymore, he said flatly, pushing away from the table. My chest ached with regret. I looked down at my plate, wishing I could take back my harsh words. The chance to see my family, was I about to lose it? You have an appointment with Mason first, Elias continued. After that we'll go. So, stop sulking. And with that he left the room. My mood lifted immediately. Hope surged through me. For the first time in months, I had something to look forward to. I hurried to the medical wing. In truth, I didn't think I needed a checkup, just some bruises and exhaustion, but I wasn't about to risk upsetting Elias. Inside Mason's office, he was hunched over his phone, frowning. Am I interrupting? I asked, taking a seat. He looked up, expression blank. Here for the checkup? I told you I'm fine. Just tell Elias that, I replied. Can't, Mason said curtly. Boss orders. He gestured for me to unbutton my shirt. I crossed my arms. It's my body. And in case you've forgotten, I'm a doctor too. I know when I'm fine. He gave a humorless laugh. Yes, you are. A brilliant doctor. His sarcasm stung. All right, what's your problem? I asked sharply. You've been acting off since I came in. Nothing's wrong, he muttered, pulling on gloves. Don't lie to me. His eyes darkened. I'm the one with the right to be angry. You kept secrets from me. Panic flickered inside me. Did he know? Did he figure out that Elias had kidnapped me? That I wasn't here willingly? If Mason knew too much, it could put me in danger, or worse, make things even worse for my family. The rest of the exam passed in tense silence. Finally, he typed something into his computer. You're fine, he said flatly. I told you that already, I muttered, pulling my shirt back on. As I moved to leave, Mason's voice stopped me. I can't believe you did that. I turned slowly. Did what? You don't need to play dumb. His tone dripped with disbelief. The news broke. All of the treatments and cures you claimed as your own? The world now knows they were the work of Dr. Spencer Channing. You stole his research, and then vanished before the truth came out. His words slammed into me like a blow. My breath caught. What are you talking about? I whispered. Chapter 32. Elias Easton POV. You're fired, I told Kai. His face remained blank, but I caught a flicker of pain in his eyes. Eric had begged me to let him stay, but I couldn't. Not after what happened last night, when I thought Anthony might have been killed. I couldn't risk having a guard who failed to take his responsibility seriously. In this world, one mistake didn't just endanger Anthony, but also my family, my men, and everyone under my protection. Especially in the mafia, where danger lurked at every corner. Kai looked like he wanted to argue, but there was nothing he could say. I believed him when he said Anthony lied to him and wandered off, trying to play hero. My angel still didn't understand that this wasn't a movie where the good guy always won. This was real, brutal life. That said, I wasn't entirely merciless. Firing Kai was already lenient. Normally, failure in this line of work carried far harsher consequences. I dismissed him with a wave of my hand. He left without another word, slamming the door. Normally, I wouldn't tolerate such disrespect, but I didn't have the energy to pick another fight. At my desk, I checked my computer for updates. Relief washed over me when I read Mason's report. Anthony was physically fine. But irritation followed quickly. Mason and Anthony had become close. Too close. It stung to see others connect with him so easily, while my own relationship with Anthony felt like one step forward, 2 steps back. At first, I'd found his stubbornness amusing. Everyone else submitted to me without hesitation. Anthony resisted at every turn. I thought he'd eventually adjust, but I had underestimated him. I sighed and left my office. Anthony was supposed to meet me at the garage so we could drive to his parents' house. I thought I was doing something good for him. He hadn't seen them for months. I couldn't even remember the last time I'd gone to such effort for someone else's happiness. But when I arrived, he greeted me with the same heavy, angry expression. No smile. No warmth. It shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. A warning sign. I was falling in love with him. I had never loved anyone before, not truly. But the more time I spent around Anthony, the more he unsettled me. What had started as rare flickers of emotion had grown into something I couldn't ignore. Maybe it was my first real taste of love. And of course, it had to be for someone who despised me. What's wrong now? I asked with a sigh as I unlocked the garage. Are you aware of the lies Spencer told the whole world? Anthony demanded. You mean the nonsense about you stealing his work? Yes, I'm aware, I replied flatly, choosing a car. He's destroying everything I sacrificed my life for. And I can't even defend myself because I'm trapped here. Why didn't you tell me? His voice cracked with desperation. Because you'd react exactly like this, I answered matter-of-factly. And knowing wouldn't change anything. People will forget soon enough. The truth was, I wanted to strangle Mason for telling him. I'd worked hard to keep that buried, And now Anthony's anger was once again directed at me. You think that comforts me? He shot back. They're your parents, Anthony. They won't believe Spencer's lies. You don't know my parents, he muttered, before suddenly stiffening. Wait, you're actually coming with me? To meet them? Did you expect me to sit in the car? I smirked. What am I supposed to tell them? The truth, I replied as I started the engine. The truth? That you kidnapped me? That you're in the mafia? That I'm your husband, I snapped. And don't you dare say anything that puts either of us in danger. Learn to control your mouth. He glared at me. I don't like the idea of you being in the same room as my parents. Then behave exactly as you should, I said with a tight smile, pulling out of the garage. Do you have a gun with you? Anthony asked quietly. I'm always armed. I glanced at him and saw all the color drain from his face. His eyes widened in horror. Turn around, he suddenly demanded. What? Turn the car around. I don't want to do this anymore. No, I said firmly. I took the day off for this. We're going. I said turn around. His voice rose, near panic. And I said no. Who do you think you are to order me around? You're going to kill them, he shouted. I'm not, I hissed, but before I could say more, he unbuckled his seatbelt and grabbed the steering wheel. The car swerved violently, nearly colliding with another vehicle. My heart lurched, but I shoved him back in time and wrestled the wheel under control, slamming us to a stop at the edge of the road. I turned to him, furious. Are you out of your mind? You could have killed us both. How else am I supposed to react? He cried. You bring a gun everywhere. You've threatened my family before. How can I trust you won't do it now? I carry a gun because I have enemies, Anthony. Do you think this life doesn't come with danger? That's just another lie, he shot back, eyes wild. It's the truth. The last thing I'd ever do is hurt your parents. You've threatened them before. People change, I snapped, though the words stung. I had said those things in anger, but I would never follow through. Not now. Not with how much he meant to me. Let's make a deal, I said, forcing my tone calmer. I promise I won't harm your parents, something I wouldn't have done anyway. In return, you promise to behave, to keep quiet about things you shouldn't, and to act as if you're happy to be married to me. Can you do that? Anthony crossed his arms. Not sure about the last part. Don't test me. He huffed. Fine. I promise. But don't you dare break your side of the deal. I won't, if you don't break yours. I hope so, he murmured, finally starting to calm. I exhaled slowly, put the car back in gear, and pulled onto the road again. Hopefully, this day wouldn't get any worse. Chapter 33. Anthony Lawrence POV. With trembling hands, I pressed the doorbell of my parents' house. Elias had been careful that no one saw me. He still wanted the world to believe I had disappeared. But in this moment, I didn't care. Whether I was trapped in his mansion or forced to live under the shadow of Spencer's lies, my life no longer felt like my own. Spencer Channing, my greatest rival, had taken everything from me. My reputation, my future, my freedom. Even if I escaped Elias, Spencer's manipulations meant I couldn't return to a normal life. There would be courts, police, endless accusations, and no guarantee I would win. I was lost, caught between two worlds, unsure where I truly belonged. Are you nervous? Elias asked as we waited at the door. I haven't seen them for months, I admitted. They probably thought I was dead. Of course, I'm nervous. What about you? Why would I be nervous? His voice carried a hint of amusement. Because you're meeting my parents for the first time? I replied sharply. Or is this just routine for you? Kidnap someone, marry them, then meet the family? Actually, you're the only one, he said with a smirk. How flattering. I rolled my eyes, but the door opened before I could continue. Standing there was my mother. Tired, pale, but unmistakably her. The same blue eyes, the same blonde hair, the same face I'd inherited. Mom, I whispered, my voice breaking as I threw my arms around her. For a second she froze, stunned. Then she clutched me tightly, tears streaming down her face. My own followed quickly. I hadn't realized how much I missed her, how much I missed them both, until that moment. I didn't know if life would ever be normal again, or if this would be the last time I'd see her. But at least, this time, I had the chance to say goodbye properly. "I can't believe you're alive," she said, pulling back to study me. Her tears gave way to worry. "You've lost so much weight." Before I could reply, her gaze shifted past me. She finally noticed Elias. "And who is this young man?" she asked warily. Elias stepped forward smoothly, bouquet in hand. "It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Lawrence. My name is James Calloway, and I'm your son's husband." He handed her the flowers with a charming smile. I nearly gagged. He had used a false name, of course, but the way he charmed her so quickly made my stomach turn. Still wiping her tears, my mother's expression softened. Elias had done it again, effortlessly manipulating the situation. "I'll admit," she said to me, "I'm overwhelmed. You disappeared for nearly 3 months, and now you're suddenly here with a husband. But you look healthy. And happy. That's what matters." She smiled through the confusion. "Come in." Her words made me force a fake smile of my own. Happy in love. If only she knew. We removed our shoes and jackets. The moment I stepped inside, nostalgia hit me hard. The familiar smell, the furniture, the walls where I grew up. "Where's Dad?" I asked as we followed her to the kitchen. "He'll be back from work soon," she said warmly. "He hasn't slept well since you disappeared. He was so worried." My smile faltered. She looked older, thinner, her eyes ringed with dark circles. My disappearance had aged her. I glanced back at Elias, who leaned casually against the wall, unmoved. How could he look so unaffected when he was the reason for all of this? "And how are Cole and Jasmine?" I asked quietly, thinking of my best friends. "They've struggled too," she admitted. "We all thought something terrible had happened. Then suddenly you return, married, without a word." Her voice was gentle, but I caught the edge of frustration beneath it. And who could blame her? "If you don't mind," she continued, "I'd like a moment to collect myself and finish cooking. You and James can wait upstairs in your room. I'll call you when everything's ready." I nodded, signaling Elias to follow me upstairs. I hated the idea of taking him to my room, but there was nowhere else to go. My room hadn't changed: blue walls, shelves stacked with books, and photographs covering nearly an entire wall. Pictures of me, my friends, my family, snapshots of a life I wasn't sure I'd ever reclaim. Elias walked around slowly, scanning everything. My jaw tightened. "I like this one," he said, taking down my graduation photo and slipping it into his pocket. "Put it back," I demanded. He ignored me, lying down on my bed without permission. Anger flared hot in my chest. He had no right to touch my things, to act as if he belonged here. "I didn't say you could." "What's yours is mine, and what's mine is yours," he interrupted smoothly. "That's how relationships work." I laughed bitterly. "You, of all people, trying to explain how a relationship works? Do you even hear yourself?" His smile faded. He sat up, his gaze sharp. "I've made mistakes. I won't deny it. But these past weeks, I've tried to make things work between us. You haven't tried at all." "Maybe it's because I don't want this," I snapped. "Did that ever cross your mind?" Suddenly, his phone rang. My eyes widened. It wasn't his, it was my mom's. "Why do you have my mom's phone?" I demanded. "You think I'd let her sit downstairs with a phone, free to call the police?" "I'm not that careless," he replied coolly, hanging up the call. My fury boiled over. "Who do you think you are, just taking whatever you want?" "Don't be like this, precious," he said lazily, leaning back again. Rage took over. I lunged at him, trying to grab the phone and the picture he had stolen. He caught me easily, holding me down. I froze. My hand brushed against something cold and solid in his pocket. A gun. For a split second, the thought flashed through my mind, end it now. One shot, and I'd be free. As if reading my thoughts, Elias' voice dropped to a dangerous calm. "Don't even think about it. If you kill me, you'd also have to deal with my family, my men, my allies, all of them. Do you really think you can survive that?" I clenched my jaw. As much as I hated him, he was right. Killing him would only unleash a storm I couldn't handle. Before I could pull away, he rolled us over, pinning me beneath him. His lips pressed against mine without warning. Shocked, I pushed him off. This time he let me. I wanted to taste those lips again, he murmured, resting his forehead against mine. His gaze locked onto mine with an intensity that stole my breath. And then, the door slammed open. My father stood there, worry and anger written across his face. And the first thing he saw after nearly 3 months of searching for me was Elias on top of me in my bed. What a disastrous first impression. Chapter 34. Elias Easton POV. I wanted to say it was a pleasant dinner, but it wasn't. The tension at the table was heavy, suffocating for Anthony at least. His complexion was pale, and he avoided looking his parents in the eye. For me, it was easier. I was calm, collected, and strangely comfortable. That left me carrying the entire conversation. I hadn't expected to be the center of attention tonight. My plan was simple: sit quietly, enjoy the meal, and watch Anthony smile again, finally reunited with his family. But a smile was the last thing I'd see on his face tonight. I have a son, Sam. Anthony saved his life, I said suddenly, after spinning half-truths about how we met and what I did for a living. Anthony's mother, Sarah, leaned forward. What exactly did he do? She asked, as if Anthony weren't sitting right there. I nudged him under the table, silently urging him to answer. Normally he never ran out of words, but tonight he was as quiet as stone. When he finally opened his mouth, it was only to take a slow sip of water. I nearly groaned aloud. I think Anthony should tell you himself, I said, shifting the focus onto him. His glare in my direction could have cut glass, but I ignored it. To keep it short, Anthony said flatly, Sam was shot. He was in a coma for months. I treated him, performed a minor surgery, and he woke up. That was it. Delivered as if he were reading the weather forecast. I wanted to slam my hand against the table. I had given him the chance to shine, but he tossed it away. Your son was shot? His father, David, asked me in shock. His attention landed back on me, which wasn't my intention at all. Before I could respond, my phone rang. At first, I was going to ignore it, but when I saw the caller ID, my blood froze. Jace Rhodes, the man Anthony had humiliated at our wedding with a cake to the face. This couldn't be good, but ignoring him was worse. Excuse me, I said, rising from the table. I stepped outside before accepting the call. Rhodes, I answered, my voice cold. Did you teach him the lesson he deserves? He demanded immediately. I handled it in my own way. What does that mean? His voice sharpened. Did you break him? Leave him crawling? Or? We talked, I interrupted quickly, forcing the image of Anthony crying in pain out of my mind. He's my husband. I'm not mutilating him over a piece of cake. You talked. Jace's laugh was venomous. That brat humiliated me in front of everyone. Do you know what people see now when they look at me? Not respect. Not fear. Just a fool with cake on his face. He ruined my reputation. I swallowed hard. Jace was dangerous when humiliated. Calm down. It was. Don't tell me to calm down. And don't call me Jace anymore. To you, I'm Mr. Rhodes until that boy of yours is put in his place. If you won't do it, I will. And if I come, I'll start with little Sammy. Before I could respond, the line went dead. I cursed under my breath, my fists tightening. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was Anthony. My entire family. I sent a quick warning to Eric, then forced myself to return to the table, pushing the dread aside. I needed to make sure Anthony hadn't broken his promise to keep our reality a secret. Later that night, by the time we left Anthony's parents' home, it was past midnight. To my relief, he eventually opened up and spoke to them, even if their disappointment lingered. They were kind people, but the shock of his sudden disappearance and marriage wasn't something they'd forgive easily. Back at the mansion, Anthony was strangely calm. Too calm. No fighting, no sarcasm, no sharp comments. It made me suspicious, but I let it slide. I was exhausted. A hot bath was all I wanted. Want to join? I asked half-jokingly as I filled the tub with steaming water and soap. Sure, he said without hesitation. My parents gave me champagne. We could drink it while we relax. I raised an eyebrow. He was never this agreeable. When he returned with the bottle, I took it from him. It looked untouched, but something about it unsettled me. Not a fan of this brand. There's another in the fridge. Get that one instead. He frowned but obeyed. While he was gone, I set the bottle aside, making a mental note to send it to the lab in the morning. Anthony returned, handing me the second bottle. I opened it, poured 2 glasses, and we slipped into the bath. To my surprise, he sat close enough that our legs brushed beneath the water. So, you suddenly like me? I asked warily. No, he admitted softly. I'm just thankful you let me see my parents. We drank. Mostly I drank. Enough to make me feel lightheaded, though Anthony had his share. I leaned closer, brushing my lips against his shoulder, then his neck. To my shock, he didn't pull away. His breath quickened, his eyes half closed. For a fleeting moment, it felt real. Like maybe, just maybe, we were getting somewhere. He kissed me, hesitant at first, then firmer, his hands cupping my face. I felt my chest tighten. My heart raced. For once, he wasn't pushing me away. But just as quickly, the world tilted. My vision blurred. My limbs grew heavy. Something was wrong. Anthony stood, stepping out of the tub. My body slumped, unresponsive. What did you give me? I managed to whisper, collapsing against the cold marble floor. He dried off calmly, his voice flat. I guess I broke my part of the deal. Letting me see my parents was your mistake. He dressed quickly, leaving me helpless on the bathroom floor. As my consciousness slipped away, a faint smirk tugged at my lips. You always meet twice in life, Anthony. Remember that. And then everything went black. Chapter 35. Anthony Lawrence POV. What took you so long? Leah demanded, clearly irritated, sitting comfortably on a sofa near the main entrance of Elias Mansion. She looked completely at ease, as if this place belonged to her. I couldn't just hand him the bottle and walk away. It wouldn't have worked, I replied, matching her tone. Leah showed no sign of guilt for what we'd done, but I couldn't say the same. My stomach churned. Never in my life would I have imagined poisoning someone. Yet here I was, caught in her plan, with no choice but to follow through. So, you gave him the right bottle? She asked with feigned curiosity. The one I had prepared? Yes, I answered flatly. All I wanted was to leave this place, put it behind me, and forget what I had done in exchange for my so-called freedom. Perfect. Leah smiled, flipping her brown hair over her shoulder as she rose. Did you tell him your parents were involved? Sort of. I don't know if he even heard me. He was already close to passing out. I kept my voice neutral. She had forbidden me from asking questions, so I didn't. Leah's smile widened. Everything worked out exactly as planned. You really are an angel, Anthony. She suddenly hugged me tightly, tears welling in her eyes. I'll finally get everything I've ever dreamed of. Can you believe it? I wanted to shove her away. Her theatrics made my skin crawl. She always seemed like someone who got everything she wanted handed to her, unlike me. I had to fight for every small thing in my life. I thought back to how all of this began, Leah walking into the medical area one day and suggesting we talk privately. She had a key to Elias' home, proof of the family's trust in her. She offered me a deal, help her with her plan, and I'd earn my freedom. I didn't trust her, not after what she did at Elias' wedding, but she was the only person who seemed capable of standing up to him. If she wasn't setting me up, she might have been my only way out. Now, here we were. Before I let you go, I still have a few questions, Leah said, gesturing for us to sit. She smoothed down the dark blue dress clinging to her and adjusted her heels. Even now, she looked as though she were dressing for an audience, though only her guards and I were present. First of all, take off that ring. Elias doesn't belong to you anymore. I pulled the wedding band from my finger and handed it over. So beautiful, she murmured, examining it. But not as beautiful as the one I'll wear when Elias and I are finally married. She laughed, sharp and unsettling. I didn't react. That's sad. I thought you'd laugh too, she teased before tilting her head. Tell me, how far did you and Elias ever go? I frowned. Why does that matter? Because I don't want to inherit complications, she said coolly. I stared at her in disbelief. We never crossed that line. Never. All this time and nothing? I thought that was the only reason he wanted you around. Apparently not, I muttered. Even I didn't fully understand Elias' behavior anymore. Her expression hardened. I hope for your sake he hasn't actually fallen in love with you. He hasn't, I said quickly. We'll see. She signaled to her guards, who stepped closer. My pulse spiked. I subtly checked that Elias' gun was still tucked inside my jacket. I didn't want to use it, but if I had to defend myself, I would. One guard produced a syringe. I laughed bitterly. I knew this was too good to be true. Leah shook her head. Relax. It's not poison. It's a small chip. A tracker. If you try to remove it, I'll know instantly. Either you'll be dead, or you'll be trying to escape. So don't bother. Why do you need to track me? I asked, though I already knew the answer. No questions, she snapped. Just stay away from Elias and his family. Don't call the police, don't try to go back to him. If you let me live my life, I'll let you live yours. Grinding my teeth, I removed my jacket so the guard could inject the device. The sting in my arm was quick but sharp. Leah smiled as though we just finished a pleasant business deal. It was a pleasure working with you, Anthony. We walked outside, where another guard leaned against a car. Leah gave me one last cold smile. Remember my rules. Break them and you'll regret it. I couldn't resist. If you're so desperate to build a family with Elias, at least try to be a good mother. Sam told me you were the one who tried to kill him. I didn't tell Elias because Sam begged me not to. He still cares about you. The color drained from Leah's face. I would never hurt my own son, she said coldly. Because it's so easy to confuse him with another child. My voice dripped with sarcasm. Her guards shifted uncomfortably. Even they looked unsettled. Leah snapped at them to stop staring. Go. Before I change my mind, she hissed. I didn't hesitate. I slid into the waiting car, the driver starting the engine. After a long silence, I asked, You're actually driving me home? This isn't another trick. Nah, he said with a small smile. My orders are to get you back safely. First time I've ever been told something like that. I didn't fully trust him, but he seemed genuine. The city blurred past, my old school, the hospital where I used to work, Jasmine's cafe. Seeing it still standing brought a fleeting smile to my face. She's dangerous, the driver muttered. Take care of yourself. I know, I said softly, my eyes glued to the familiar streets. He dropped me in front of my apartment building and handed me a set of keys. Found these in one of Mr. Easton's drawers. I don't think there's a spare, but maybe change the lock to be safe. Thanks, I said, surprised at the kindness. As the car pulled away, I stood in front of my old home, breathing in the night air. For the first time in months, I felt a sliver of freedom. I could see my parents again, maybe even my friends. But the relief didn't last. The guilt pressed down on me. I had left Sam with a mother who once tried to hurt him. And worse, I had poisoned Elias. The pills Leah gave me weren't fatal, I'd made sure of that. But I still betrayed him. I still crossed a line. And now, no matter how free I felt, I knew Elias would never forgive me. Chapter 36. Elias Easton POV. Anthony is gone. Eric's voice was hesitant, but the words hit me like a storm. On the outside, I remained calm, but inside, my emotions were in chaos. Sam clung to me tightly, his small arms wrapped around my neck, while I gently stroked his back to soothe him. My parents stood nearby, father with his usual stern expression, mother looking tired but relieved that I was alive. Leah, however, sat in the corner, crying far too dramatically for my patience. I didn't even know who allowed her into this room. The memory of her betrayal, of what one of her men had done to Anthony, still burned inside me. But I was too weak to fight her now. How long was I unconscious? I asked. Nearly 2 weeks, dear, my mother replied softly. One of the doctors, Mason I think, said the medicine affected you more strongly because you mixed it with alcohol. Your body may take weeks to recover. Weeks? I muttered in frustration. I can't afford to lie here doing nothing. Leah seized the moment to speak. This is all Anthony's fault. We knew something was wrong with him from the beginning. Look at what he did to you. She dabbed at her tears as if rehearsing for an audience. I wanted to be angry with Anthony. I wanted to call him a traitor. But I couldn't. The truth was, I wasn't disappointed in him. I was disappointed in myself. I was the reason he had felt trapped, the reason he thought he had to poison me just to be free. Father crossed his arms. Leah is right. He was never the right choice for you. His words carried that sharp satisfaction he always showed when his warnings proved correct. I clenched my jaw. Then who would have been father? I asked bitterly. Mother quickly intervened. Elias, please. Let's not start another fight. Leah chimed in again, which only deepened my irritation. I don't know why we tolerated Anthony this long. I glared at her. Why is she even here? This is my house and I don't want her in it. Mother frowned. Don't be rude. Leah has been here every day worried for you. I wanted to laugh at the thought. Leah's worry had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her own ambition. My father, however, pressed on. We told you from the beginning that marrying Leah would have been wiser. She cares for you. That boy, your so-called husband, was nothing but trouble. Don't you dare insult him, I snapped, unable to hold back any longer. Anthony was not after my money. He had his own life, his own success. You don't even remember his name, and yet you speak as if you know him. My father's eyes widened. Excuse me? Eric, who had been silent, finally stepped forward. Mr. Easton just woke up. Maybe we should give him time to rest. I nodded faintly, grateful for the intervention. I pressed a kiss to Sam's forehead. Go to your grandmother, son. She needs you. Sam gave me one last hug before walking toward Mother. Leah reached out to hold him, her tears still flowing, which made me bristle inside. Father's parting words were sharp. When you're stronger, Elias, we will have a serious conversation. You can't keep disrespecting your parents. Then he stormed out. Mother followed, sighing heavily, with Leah and Sam trailing behind. Only Eric remained. Stay a moment, I said quietly. He closed the door and sat beside me. Did Anthony or his family contact the police? I asked. Eric shook his head. Surprisingly, we checked call records, his friends, his families. Nothing. Even the police stations have no record of a report. I frowned. Strange. He always threatened that he would call the moment he escaped. Eric shrugged. Instead, he's back in his apartment, living as though nothing happened. That only made the situation more puzzling. If Anthony truly wanted freedom, why hadn't he run far away? Why hadn't he reached out for help? Eric continued, your parents and Leah wanted to send someone after him immediately. I convinced them to wait for you. For that, I was grateful. If I had woken to find Anthony harmed, I couldn't imagine how I would bear it. Are you angry at him? Eric asked carefully. I need to know why he did it, I said at last. Then I'll decide. Before Eric could respond, Mason entered with a professional calm. Good to see you awake, Mr. Easton. Any pain? He checked the monitors beside me and left pills on the table. I'm fine, I lied, though my head pounded and my chest ached. None of that compared to the hollow pain in my heart. Anthony had left me. And even after all of it, I couldn't bring myself to hate him. Instead, jealousy clawed at me, at the thought of him smiling at someone else, giving another person the warmth he never offered me. I couldn't let him go. Not yet. Mason, I asked suddenly, how important is this machine? I gestured to the 4 pumping into my arm. Very important, Mason explained. It helps filter toxins and supports your recovery. Before he finished, I yanked the needle free and bandaged the wound myself. Mason gasped. Elias, what are you doing? Eric demanded. I've wasted 2 weeks. I'm done lying here. I staggered out of bed, my body weak but my determination stronger. Are you insane? Eric followed me down the hall. If you truly care about him, let him go. He's suffered enough. I just want to talk to him. Eric laughed bitterly. That's what you said the first time, before you asked me to kidnap him. That was different, I snapped. Back then I didn't care. Now I do. Eric shook his head, exasperated. Fine. Do what you want. But don't come to me later when it all falls apart. With that, he walked away. I sighed. Eric had Kai. Kid love. No wonder he couldn't understand me. After a quick shower, I dressed simply, no suits, just casual clothes. My head still throbbed, my chest still ached, but I forced myself to ignore it. Before leaving, I glanced at the gun on my bedside table. Hesitation gripped me, but in the end, I tucked it into my jacket. I didn't want violence. I just wanted answers. Let this be a peaceful encounter, I whispered to myself, and stepped out the door. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.